Today on Alecia at Home. Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. It is so good to see you. I am Alecia, and if you are visiting for the first time, welcome. It is very nice to meet you. If you are returning, it's good to see you again. I'm so excited to spend some time together today. We are going to do some sewing. I've got a few fun sewing projects that I want to work on. I want to change the pillow covers in my bedroom for my bedding, so that they're a little more, cozy for the winter season. So that's what we're going to be doing. And then after we get all of our sewing done, we will style our pillows on the bed. So I look forward to hanging out. Thank you all so much for being here. Are you guys ready to do some sewing? I am very excited about our sewing projects today. So we are going to need some fabric, sewing machine, scissors, tape measure, pins, and some sewing clips if you have them, which isn't necessary. So the first thing we're gonna do is choose our fabric, and the fabric that I have chosen today for my project is this beautiful, warm, cozy knit fabric to make new pillows for our bed. So I'm going to start by cutting my fabric to size, and I am making some Euro pillows with this particular fabric. So I'm cutting them at 25 inches by 25 inches square. And I'm using my cutting mat to do this, but if you don't have a cutting mat, you can just use your tape measure and make your marks and then use your scissors to cut it. I really love my rotary cutter though, so if you like to sew a lot, I highly recommend investing in one of these cutting mats and a rotary cutter because it does save a lot of time on cutting. I am also going to cut this fabric 42 inches long by 15 inches wide to fit my lumbar pillow. So now I have all of my pieces cut to size. I am making 3 of the Euro size pillows and 1 lumbar pillow cover. So the next thing I'm going to do is find my right sides on this knit fabric for my Euro size pillows. With this one, it was very easy to tell the right side from the wrong side because the wrong side was kind of a smooth fabric. Sometimes it can be hard to tell, but I got lucky with this one. So I'm going to go ahead and put right sides together, and then I'm going to start pinning this. Well, I'm actually going to use clips rather than pins. I'm just going to pin this one edge to prepare a seam for the zipper. I'm going to do zipper closures in all of these pillows today. If y'all have never used these clips, I highly recommend giving them a try. I will put a link in the description box for y'all if you are interested in these. They are so wonderful, and I feel like they're just so much more they save on time because they're so much easier to use than pins, and they're just a lot quicker than pinning everything. So I'm just going to go ahead and pin this all the way to the end on just this one edge. Now that we have our entire side clipped, we are just clipping just this one side for right now because this is just going to be the seam for our zipper, and we want to do this part first. So I will be making a 1-inch seam allowance all the way down this edge so that we have plenty of room for our zipper. And this is the zipper that I am using. This is a 26-inch zipper. So it is a little bit longer than my fabric, but that's okay because we can cut the end off of it. It won't hurt the zipper at all. So now I'm just going to take this to my sewing machine and I'm going to just sew all the way down to the edge of this. But the most important part about sewing a zipper seam is to make sure that you are using a whip stitch, which is the longest length stitch that your sewing machine will stitch, because when it's time to take this seam out to reveal our zipper, you're going to want that long stitching to make it a lot easier to cut out. So now I have this whole edge sewn, and I will show you here. I'm going to take all of our clips off, and then I will show you here what our seam looks like. It's plenty wide for our zipper, which is what you want. You don't want your zipper to be you don't want your seam to be smaller than what your zipper is. I hope that made sense. You can kind of see here what I'm doing. So you can see here that I've made a really nice wide seam that fits our zipper perfectly. So when you are putting in a zipper, you want to make sure that when you pin this in place, you are pinning it in place right side down. You also want to open your zipper just a little bit, like I'm doing here. And then we are going to place it right side down in this seam. And the reason you want to open this a little bit is because when you go to sew this, your presser foot on your sewing machine won't fit over the zipper pull. So we're just going to start sewing below that zipper pull, and then we will open our zipper a little bit more and come back and sew the other end of this. And you'll see what I'm talking about in just a few minutes as we get ready to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and start pinning this in place. And when I'm pinning it in place, I want to make sure the actual teeth of my zipper are lined up perfectly with the seam in the fabric. That way, when you go to reveal this, you'll have a perfect opening for your zipper. So if you have never used a zipper before or sewn a zipper into a project before, I want you to just give this a try. Don't be afraid to do this, because it's really not as hard as it may seem. I know sewing zippers can feel intimidating, but trust me, it's really not as hard as it seems. The first time I sewed a zipper into something, I was so nervous and just so afraid I was going to mess it up. But honestly, it turned out to be so much easier than I had expected. So jump outside your comfort zone and give zippers a try, because they just make your project so much cleaner. I just love using zippers, especially in my pillow covers. Okay, so now that we have our zipper completely pinned into place, and I do use a lot of pins here because I want to make sure this isn't going to move at all. We are just going to sew straight down, and then when I get to the bottom here, I do like to sew a back stitch and a forward stitch, back stitch and a forward stitch, just several times to make sure that that is really secure at the end of our zipper and it won't go anywhere. And you do want to use a zipper foot to do this. Most sewing machines come with zipper foot, so I highly recommend that you use it, because it does make sewing your zippers into place so much easier, because the zipper foot gives you a great guide for sewing your seams perfectly. Okay, here we go. This is going to be fun. So here you can see I'm just getting everything set up and getting my needle and my zipper foot positioned into place. And to position this, you want to make sure that this part of your zipper foot is lined up perfectly with the teeth on your zipper. So I'm using a 2.5 stitch length on my sewing machine. Everybody's sewing machine is differently, so I'm not sure what yours is, but I do use a really short stitch on this just to make sure that my zipper is really well sewn into place. So I'm just going to go ahead and start sewing, and I recommend that you just take your time and go really slow with this, especially if it's the first time that you've sewn a zipper in. And I do pull my pins out as I'm going, so I apologize that my hands keep getting in the way and kind of make it hard for you to see, but I don't like to sew over my pins because it can sometimes break my needle, and it dulls the needle a little bit too. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue sewing this all the way down this first edge of our zipper, and when we get to the end of this and are ready to turn our work to go back up the other side, I will show you how I reinforce the bottom part of my zipper. Okay, so I am now at the end of the first side of our zipper. You can see here where I'm at the end, and I'm going to go ahead and just lift my presser foot. Don't lift your needle out though. Make sure your needle is in place so that it holds your fabric in place. Then put my presser foot back down, and I do this just above that little metal thing at the end of my zipper, and I'm just going to sew forwards, and then I'm going to do a reverse stitch all the way back to where we started, and then I'll go forward again, and then I'll go back again, and I do this just maybe 2 or 3 times just to really reinforce that zipper into place and make sure it has a nice strong seam there or stitch there. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn this, and we will sew our zipper all the way back up the other side until we get to where our zipper pull is. And then we're going to stop and unzip our zipper just a little bit so that we can sew the top half of this zipper into place. So you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a few minutes. And as you're sewing, remember to keep your zipper foot lined up with the center part, like the teeth of your zipper, just to keep your stitches on the edges correctly spaced apart. And we are almost to the pull on the zipper. You can see here where my zipper foot has now met up with the pull on the zipper. And so because we can't sew over that, and you don't want wonky little the seams up there, we're going to go ahead and backstitch to lock that stitch into place, and then we're going to pull it out of our sewing machine, and we're going to unzip our zipper just a little bit. Then we will put this back in the sewing machine so that we can sew the top half of our zipper into place. I really hope this makes sense for y'all. Sometimes it is so hard for me to get my words to match my actions. Do you guys ever have that problem? Okay, so now we are just going to sew the top half of our zipper down, and we're doing the exact same way as we sewed the bottom half. You just want to make sure that that zipper foot stays lined up with the teeth on your zipper so that your seams match. And then when you meet up with your stitching from before, just go ahead and do a back stitch to lock your stitching into place. And y'all, we did it. See, that wasn't so hard at all. We now have a zipper. But here comes the fun part. We have to reveal this zipper because remember we sewed that seam, and so now we are just going to use a seam ripper. And I highly recommend that you use a nice sharp seam ripper, and I also recommend that you get one with a little protective bead on the end, because that will help prevent you from ripping your actual fabric as you go through and take out that whip stitch that we put in to create our zipper seam. So I am just going to go through here, and this can be a little bit time consuming and a little bit tedious, especially if you didn't make a whip stitch. If you made your stitches too close together, then it does make it a little harder to take this out. But I'm just going to go ahead and remove all of our whip stitching to reveal our zipper. And now I'm at the end, and you want to be really careful here not to cut through that reinforcement stitching that we made at the bottom of our zipper. So here we did it, guys. We now have a zipper, and I am going to just go ahead and kind of pull out all those little tiny strings, and then voila, it's a zipper, and it's a working zipper. Yay! Because my zipper was just a little bit longer than my actual pillow cover here, I did clip off the ends, but make sure that you don't accidentally clip past your reinforcement stitching at the bottom of your zipper. So now it is time to go ahead and sew the remaining 3 sides of our pillow cover together. But before you start clipping this up, make sure that you unzip your zipper halfway so that you will have an opening to flip right sides out when we are finished sewing. If you forget to do that, you're going to have a little bit of a mess on your hands because it'll be impossible to access that zipper. So I'm just going to go ahead and clip up the remaining 3 sides of this pillow cover. And I do use a lot of clips, as you can see here, because this is a very stretchy fabric and I want to make sure that my seams all stay really nicely matched up together. And when I take it to the sewing machine, I do try to be very careful not to push or pull too much on this and just kind of let the sewing machine do its job so that all of my seams do stay well matched. Now we are at the sewing machine and it is time to finish up this pillow cover. And so I am sewing this with a straight stitch at a 3/4 inch seam allowance. And I do take my clips out as I'm sewing along, so again I apologize if my hand gets in the way and makes it hard for you to see. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue sewing all the way around all 3 remaining sides of this pillow cover, and then I will meet you guys back at the end and we can reveal our pillow cover. As I come to the end of my first side here, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my needle is down into the fabric, lift my presser foot, turn my work, and put the presser foot back down, and then continue sewing. This just gives us a nice square on that corner so that we don't have any kind of wonky stitching, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue sewing this all the way around, and I'll see you guys at the end. Okay, now I have come to the end of my project, and as I am going over that seam allowance there where the zipper is, make sure that you have everything tucked nicely in, and then do several back stitch and forward stitch and back stitch and forward stitch again here at this spot to reinforce that zipper. Now that I have everything sewn, I'm going to go ahead and just take my pinking shears and go all the way around this, all 3 of those sides to just kind of clean up this and eliminate any of the bulky seams so that when we turn this right side out, we just have these nice smooth seam allowances or seam lines. So one thing I like to do before I flip my pillow cover right side out is just run my finger along all of my seam edges just to make sure that my sewing machine didn't skip any stitches and leave holes or gaps. And then we can flip this thing right side out to reveal all of our handiwork. There is just something so satisfying about this to me. I really kind of like this part. Then I'm going to go ahead and just poke out all of my little corners to get everything nice and sharp on the corners. And you can use the edge of a spoon to do this if you prefer. Just don't use anything sharp because you don't want to poke through any of your stitching. I really enjoyed working with this fabric. At first I thought it was going to be kind of hard to work with because it was so stretchy and just that knit fabric, but it was actually not at all difficult to work with. It was quite pleasant actually. Now that we have all of our pillow covers made, we get to do the fun part. This is my favorite part. We get to style the bed. So I am just going to go ahead and put my pillow covers, put my inserts into the pillow covers, and then I will give them a good fluffing and we can move on to styling. think there's really a right or wrong way to style pillows on your bed. It really is just perfect personal preference. But if you need just a starting place, I have this handy little guide that you can follow, and it just kind of gives you some styling tips for all size beds. And I will have that as a free printable, and you can find the link for that in my description box. So I'm just going to get started here by first laying down my sleeping pillows, and I lay them flat, and then I place my Euro pillows on top of those to give my Euro pillows some height. And I give them a good fluffing and just kind of get them, positioned just so. And then I will place my sham pillows in front of these, and then place the lumbar pillow in the front of that to just kind of give it that stacked look and give the pillow some dimension and some depth. So this is one look, or you can also try this look where I have my sleeping pillows kind of stacked in the back, like you can see here, then the Euro pillows, then my shams, and then the lumbar, and that also gives it lots of extra depth and dimension. I really enjoyed our projects from today. I love how they all turned out. I love how they look on the bed. I think the fabric that I chose for our pillow covers is the perfect cozy fabric for our winter season. I especially love that fabric on the lumbar pillow. I wish you could be here to just feel it and cuddle up with it. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm gonna do tonight. I think I'm gonna cuddle up with my new pillow and watch a chick flick. I think that'll be a great way to end this day. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. I enjoyed your company. It was so much fun doing some sewing together and styling the bed for our winter season. I really enjoyed our time together today. Thank you again so much for being here and for taking the time out of your day to hang out with me. I'm really looking forward to next week. We are going to do some crocheting. You guys have asked and I listened, and that's what we're going to be doing. I am actually very, very excited to do some crochet projects together. So that's what we're going to jump into next week. So go grab your yarn and your crochet needles and get ready. I look forward to seeing you all again next week. Until then, y'all take care, and I will see you soon. Bye.